Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another webinar about the WEBCON way. This one is focused all on claims and complaints. This one is a bit ambitious. We are focused heavily on value and the kinds of things that you can do with our technology. This is not a geek out session where we talk about special techniques or product features. We want to talk about the kinds of solutions people build with WEBCON BPS and walk you through a proof of concept that's a lot more than a simple proof of concept. Claims and complaints are a big deal, and we are perfect for this kind of business scenario. Let's get right into it. Claims and complaints is a specialized case of a very general case, which is handling feedback. You might see feedback-based business processes in the form of human resources hotlines or IT help desks or suggestion boxes or customer service. Any of these things follow a very familiar pattern. And that in and of itself is a very good thing. But we have something a little bit more ambitious in mind. It's closest to customer service, but it's a bigger deal than that. We think of claims and complaints as a business to business. It can be business to customer engagement facility. It's a way of improving customer loyalty. It's a way of orchestrating and dispatching a lot of disparate activity. It's a way to engage with customers. There's a lot more to it than simply automating incoming email and routing it to the right person. This is a really big deal. I think it makes sense for us to parse this out a little bit. So why don't we look at the types of steps that are involved here? There is the notion of submitting something, classifying it. In fact, let's get through each one of these one at a time. And I can think, rather than showing you 6 different icons talking about the major steps in claims and complaints, let's practice what we preach and show it to you in the form of a process diagram. This is claims and complaints. And in fact, we're going to take you through something like this in just a few minutes. But let's parse this and walk through it a little bit and explain what's going on here. The whole thing starts by submitting requests or claims and complaints, and it needs to be really easy to get that done. In fact, no matter how someone wants to reach out to us, we want that to be an extremely happy experience. It could be through an intranet, corporate intranet. It could be a public internet site under the right sets of circumstances. It could be humans listening to telephone calls and operating online screens. And so we might want to process incoming email or online chats facilitated by bots or direct requests submitted through mobile devices. Or we might simply want to create a custom application and have someone work with that. And here's the key. I don't really care, because all of these are equally important to me, and all of these are equally important to WEBCON as a whole. We need to make sure that there is no wrong way to get in touch with us. We want to be where our customers are. It matters a lot. And then we move on to classification and categorization and prioritization. If we were talking about a medical setting, we would call this triage, but it involves looking at a request that's been made, looking at a claim, looking at a complaint, and trying to figure out what it is, and adding some more insight to it and adding some more connection to it. It's a big deal. Categorization can take on a lot of forms. I might want to categorize the request, but I might want to categorize the client. I certainly want to parse this. In fact, a lot of things in AI can help out here a lot. Azure Cognitive Services is at our fingertips, and we're able to make a lot of work out of that. We can figure out a little bit about the request being made, the details that are being described. But the other thing that we're able to do in a lot of different ways, sometimes just by human intervention, is to check and see which client it is. If somebody is just sending us an email, we may need to connect the email to a known client. And from the client, we can figure out things like what the service level agreement is, whether we think of them as an A or B or C client. ABC analysis essentially segments customers or clients by the amount of business they do with you. Typically, there are a small number of high-profile clients that represent a disproportionate amount of one's revenue. You want to be really, 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 really nice to those clients. I mean, you still care about the others, but the amount of energy and time you'll invest and the priority you assign to key customers, that matters. Prioritization matters, and cross-referencing, it may be an inquiry, in fact, it usually is, about, say, an invoice or about some asset or about it's in relation to an interaction we have with a customer for one reason or another, and making sure we're connected to all of that. What we really don't want to have happen is to have a caseworker get this and know nothing about what they have to do until they call or contact the person who submitted the request and then ask them to repeat everything. That doesn't make for happy customer relationships. I mean, we will get back to them, we will interact with them, but we want it to enhance the relationship, not replace the relationship. So this is a big deal. Classification, categorization, that's a necessary step. And closely related to that is resourcing it, figuring out who's going to work on this case. And there are lots of different ways one can do this. It can be completely automated. It could also be semi-automated, or it could be manual but governed. In fact, all of these options make a ton of sense. In our example that we're going to go through in a little while, I left it semi-manual, but essentially the dispatcher gets to choose amongst several different automated methods. If we were to turn this over to production, we would pick a method we prefer and use that. But again, sometimes when you want to illustrate something, you simplify it or you do it a little bit less automatically so that you can show more stuff. And so I will have done that. But yes, we might want to schedule people based on their availability, but I may want to obviously mitigate that with who understands what kind of cases and who's best equipped to deal with what. I might want to factor in their workload. I certainly don't want to load somebody up with more and more cases when they already have more cases than anyone else. I kind of want to distribute the workload equitably. But if I know that somebody can handle 10 cases at a time, whereas another person can only handle 3, I kind of want to factor that in too. We're pretty good at that kind of thing. Volunteering I put here for a reason. There are scenarios where we've had customers doing claims and complaints put something into a queue and allow technicians, support people, caseworkers to go ahead and claim requests and self-assign. The issue with that is you don't want people to game the system. You kind of want to make sure that they don't do things like find the 5 easiest cases and grab those. Anything you can do to allow them some flexibility, like, oh, I'll take that case, it looks perfect for me, but you don't want them to hog all the quick ones so that they improve their metrics by the number of cases they've closed. I don't think anyone likes that. So some way of governing it. Maybe you only want to allow somebody to claim 3 cases. They get to choose any 3 they want. There could be 30 waiting for them, which means at a certain point, you still need to leave things in the pool for other people to choose. And delegating. I may want to decide that I'm not the right person to do this. It should be someone else, and I want to hand it back or pass it along to someone else. All these things, if you have a solution that doesn't do this, you're using the wrong solution. Next thing is, what do you do while it's in progress? Well, the answer is really everything, but I broke it down to about 5 common things that happen all the time. Facilitating communication between the person working the case and certainly the client or the customer that they're working for at that point, but it might involving other people, consultation with others, escalating it to more skilled people under certain scenarios. I also care a lot about being able to monitor and audit what's going on at any given time, or invite people to get involved, even if it's just to observe. There could be a scenario where it's a truly high profile customer, or it's taking a long time to work on this. And based on rules that we determine, we want to involve extra people at certain critical stages. In fact, example you'll see in a few minutes, if we get too close to our service level agreement threshold, we immediately escalate this to the director of the entire claims and complaints department. In other words, if we don't think it's going to happen in time, or we think there's any risk of that whatsoever, we bring in the big guys. And integration. If it turns out that the right thing to do is to request a discount or give someone more time to make a payment or something like that, we're not going to do this inside of our business process automation system. You've got something like SAP or an ERP system, a line of business application. And my guess is you've got it for a reason, among other things, to comply with the law, to comply with generally accepted accounting principles and such. Being able to integrate with it to have it carry out some things. In other words, we use our software to facilitate the business process, but some of the activities that must happen, we shouldn't do. The system of record should do it. It's not that we're not a system of record, we are. But the system of record for accounting practices, yeah, we wouldn't attempt to suggest that you don't use something specifically designed to do that. So yes, we're better off calling out to your ERP system and saying, issue a new invoice. All those things matter while you are working the case. Now, when you think you're done, well, you're not necessarily done. When you're closing out a case, we need to do some work. We need to certainly communicate with people, make sure that they were indeed happy. Kind of want to do a little bit of follow-up with the customer or the client. I also want to make sure that, well, maybe we learned something from this particular case and we want to share it with everyone else. So one of the outcomes at the very, very end might be contributing something to a knowledge base or a set of best practices, or maybe even harvesting new things that were done manually this time so that we can automate them next time. We care about this a lot. And then the last thing is, we really want to do this throughout the entire thing, but we're referring to this as oversight and curation. It's essentially something that a handful of people who are responsible for the entire process will do a lot. And it involves monitoring the system to make sure things are moving around smoothly or along smoothly. But it also means analyzing things and looking for anomalies and being able to find patterns and find violations of those patterns and learn from them. It could be that someone made a mistake, but it could also be that there's a new problem popping up and we might need to take some sort of very large scale corrective action. We also might necessarily need to reroute something. If we decide that something's taking too long, maybe it's time to assign it to somebody else. Or maybe we just decided that we don't want to deal with these kinds of problems anymore. We want to handle them a completely different way. Maybe there's a product that we've discovered is defective. We know it's defective, and the moment someone calls in to say, I've got a problem, we don't even need them to prove it. We know it's a problem, we'll deal with it immediately. In fact, ideally, we would reroute something to handle proactive, automatic refunds or reissuing of materials or redeliveries. All of these things are possible, but it requires a certain degree of making it easy for the people that care about the process to run the process. Why don't we do a demo and run through the whole thing? Well, maybe not the whole thing, but a lot of the thing. I think it'll be fun. So let me slide over here. Now, here I am working in a Windows desktop, and in order to do this demo properly, I need to give you a quick tour of where everything is. So what you're looking at right now is WEBCON BPS's Designer Studio. And this is the same process I just showed you on slides There's a little bit more going on here because as we got into it, turned out there was more that we needed to do. But we're going to be walking through this process. And in a couple of cases, the things that are really interesting happen completely behind the scenes. And sometimes I'm going to come back here and point something out. Like when we get into the AI type stuff, yeah, so much of that just works. You won't even know it's there unless I point it out to you. And I'm going to do that. There are also some things like business rules. There's things like actions we do to interface with Azure Cognitive Services that really matter a lot. I said that I would take you on a tour of where everything is. You'll notice that there are a number of browser windows open. And if you've got really good eyes, you can tell that the photos of the people are different in each one of them. I'm logged on as a different user in each one of them. It's a business process. It involves a lot of different people. I can't really do that properly unless I'm logged in as all of them and can pass them amongst them. It just so happens that one person, I'm making sure that we use a yellow colored browser, and another one has got a light blue themed browser, and this person's got a purple one. We've got lots and lots of options. And then finally, we'll do a little bit of mobile stuff at some point, but we'll be back. So that's the lay of the land. Let's get started. I want to begin with a customer. And the scenario here is we make shoes. We have a product line of many, many different kinds of shoes. We do them in different production runs, and we take orders and then fulfill them and send them to people. And occasionally there are problems. So what I want to do now is send in a complaint. And I'm going to do it in the simplest way possible, which is to send an email. Here I am as someone named Rhoda, and Rhoda works for one of our customers. So we're going to send this to claims and complaints. This could be an internal or external person, but they know they've got a user ID and they could log on to our system and do it with our software. But they don't want to. They just want to send us an email, and we should be able to deal with that. And we can. So let's say I've got a late shipment. I'm still waiting for those new dress shoes. Customers are calling me. Rhoda works at a shoe store, one of our distributors, one of our resellers. We would like to be nice to her. Rhoda's going to send this off. And so there we go. Email's on its way. We'll deal with it in an automated fashion. And I'll tell you what, while Rhoda is doing that, let's send another request here. I'm going to be a different user, and we're going to run the WEBCON mobile application. And it's open to the claims and complaints management application already. And I'm going to file a new claim from here. Remember how I said we want to be where the user is? And this time I'm looking at a proper form, and it's mobile enabled. It wants to know who I am. And I'm going to say I'm me. And my email is, actually, let's just do mikefitz@webcon.com. Title of my problem is souls separating. Yep. Who am I working for? I work for the Tootsie Shop. It's a very chic boutique. And I will say the latest shipment of boots doesn't look good. Many are kind of falling apart. All right, let's leave it like that. Anything else I need to do? No, remember, I'm just submitting a request. It's not up to me to resource it or anything else. I just want to submit it and move it along. And I've been assured that it's been received and we're all set to go. I'm going to leave it at that. And here is where I had done something else as someone else. Now, what I'm going to do now is take a look at cases. Here I am looking at activity, and I notice a couple of things have happened here. I see that I've got some new cases queued up for me. I am a guy named Alf, and Alf is the dispatcher for this kind of thing. And I could focus in exclusively on active cases, but I actually care about these unassigned ones. And sure enough, here's the one I submitted through the mobile application. And here's one that Rhoda did through email. So how about we do a couple of these? I'll start with this. Here's Rhoda's request, and I need to do a couple of extra things here. Remember, Rhoda just sent this through as an email message. I need to finish the job. So it turns out Rhoda works at a place called Heel and Toe. But we have done a couple of things already. We've parsed a lot of her request. So I see it's translated into English. It already was in English, but had it been in a different language, I would have seen it in a different language here, or in English. We analyzed it, and sure enough, we're talking about a damaged sole. And we're looking at, based on looking things up from heel and toe, we've got an SLA response time of 8 hours because they are an A-level customer. We care about these guys a lot. Now, let's see, what did we see here? New dress shoes. Okay. Then, oh, this one is about lateness. Okay, great, no problem. Here's what we're going to do. These are the ones. This must be the order. It's the most recent one they made. We don't see any issues with this particular product. We just have something that's late. I see right now that we are in the middle of classifying it. We haven't resourced it yet. We haven't assigned anything to anyone. If I want to look at it from the point of view of a picture, I certainly can. It's assigned to me. And in fact, here's the email that Rhoda sent me in case I need to look directly at the email and parse it out. I don't really need to. I have what I need here. Anything left for me to do? No. The thing I care about the most at this point is submitting it. So let's send this along and assign it to someone. And at this point, I've got a series of options. You've already seen a lot of things happen automatically. What I need to do now is give this to somebody to do. And I've got a couple of choices here. I can automatically assign it to the user who's the least busy. There's a pool of available people that can work on this. There's a third option that is not available to me at the moment because I already have a full plate. I am not able to add myself because I'm too busy. But remember what I said, there was a scenario where we would let people self-assign, but not too many at a time. How about we do this? Instead of me taking this on, I'm going to choose a different person. Let's take Luke. And we have him pick up this unassigned case. Now, I want to work on this myself. And I see this third option called claim, which will automatically assign it to me. I like this very much. And I'm allowed to do this because I haven't claimed my 3. And again, I can claim more of them if I finish more cases. It all works rather nicely. Let's assign this and move on. So now if I want to keep working on this, I certainly can, but that is pretty much that. I can now pick this up and work on it. And there are a number of options available to me. I can respond to her and ask her to provide more information. And, one of the things I could do is say, we're talking about the stilettos, right? I'll check right away. If it's something else, please let me know. Okay. away it goes. And in the meantime, we're back here and I can keep doing other things. At this point, I'm not ready to request an extension or a discount or alert the quality assurance thing. I'm certainly not going to issue a refund. What I want to really do is wait for a moment. So there's not a lot for me to accomplish here. What I'm going to do is go back over here to a different case. Let's take this one, which involved a shipment of boots that doesn't look very good. Many are falling apart. And I'm going to assign this, actually, I'm going to manually assign it to Mike. And so he's got it. Now I'm going to come over here to the yellow browser where I am logged in as Mike. And, we've been proactively looking at lists of cases and picking them up. Most people don't actually work that way. If you've been assigned something, you can just come here to active tasks. You can look at it from here across many different applications, or just look here at the top of a dashboard. This is the case that I was just assigned, involving boots kind of falling apart. We're in progress, and now I've got a number of options available to me. One of which I care about a lot is maybe alerting the QA department. It just depends. Oh, we didn't tie this into an invoice. That's because when I submitted the request, I didn't provide the invoice. All right. I'm guessing, based on the fact that when we looked at the analysis, the latest shipment of boots don't look good. All right. If they didn't tell us everything, we might be able to figure some stuff out. So here are all the invoices we've got pending with them right now. And this one, that's a little while ago. This one is pretty new. I'm guessing it's this one. And oh my, we've got 7 claims against this product, all of which are from this particular batch. We might have a problem. And so one of the things I think I want to do before I go any further is alert the QA department and say, you might want to look into this. We've had 7 cases related to this so far. All one product, one batch. All right, and I will send that along its merry way. It's being worked on now. In fact, it's what we call a sub workflow, and if I want to keep track of it, I can. In the meantime, I'm going to do my own work on this, including contacting them, making sure that they know that everything is going on. I could even request that they provide a photo. That could be done from an email attachment. That could be done within our mobile application. All of that works just fine. That is kind of how things work. And in fact, I'm going to go back to a different person. How about we take this guy? All right. Now, this particular case that he's working on at the moment, wow, he's got the same problem. We've got a lot of boots slipping off. Why don't we have him alert QA as well? Is this a trend? And send that along. And I'll tell you what, let's not do that one. This is a late delivery. And so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to apologize. Sorry about that. I've tracked it. You should be getting it. Send that along, and I'm going to close the case. Now, it's off of my plate, but it's not closed. Somebody needs to review it and decide that it really is closed. And that someone will be the dispatcher. So if I come over here to green, this is Alf. Alf is responsible for for this kind of stuff, and we can see exactly what's happened. In fact, if I want to look at the entire log of what happened to this case from start to finish, I can see as it moved through all of the steps. And I can also see at the end the text of the email message that got sent out saying that it's been tracked and so on. All right, I can review the whole thing. It looks like they did exactly what they're supposed to do, so I'm going to mark this as successful. If I thought there was a problem and this person had screwed it up completely, I could click Start Over. And if I thought that we had screwed this up so badly that we've lost the customer and there's nothing else we can do, I would mark it a failure. Believe it, I don't do that lightly, and we definitely need to confirm it, but no, this was a successful case. So I have sent it along its merry way, and that's it. Nothing left for me to do. It's off of my plate. There is a circumstance where it might not be finished yet, but we'll come back to that later. Let's go back to the slides now, because that's enough of a demo. You get the idea. We could tell different stories using different cases all day long. What I want to zoom in on are a couple of things about the way we were solving these problems that matter a lot, not the least of which is a case management approach to getting something done. And when I say a case management approach, what I mean is everything is in a single place. From one screen, I've got access to the ERP system. I've got access to attached emails. I've got information that might be coming from the loyalty system. In fact, here, let's go back and take a look at what I'm talking about. Might it be, it's going to take me a minute to find the right case. This is it. This is the right case I wanted to talk about. Okay, I've got everything in one place. Let's move some of this stuff off to the side. In fact, let's just open this up in one window by itself. All right, what do I have here? I have everything I need to work with everyone. I can see which actions I'm able to take. I can see a picture of a diagramming of the problem. I can see all the email messages that have gone back and forth between Rhoda and me on this particular case. I've got information about her order, the invoice, and the product that was involved in the manufacturing batch that it came from. I know information about this client. I know information about the problem, sentiment analysis. Was it a positive comment, a negative one, a mixed one, a neutral one? Again, if translation needed to take place, it did. I have access to, again, things that she may have sent me in response to asking for sketches or photos or diagrams or something like that. I have all of this information, and I have the ability to call functions that talk to our ERP system. I have a log of activity that's been going on. I've got threaded comments that can be put in here. I've got everything in a single place. And I have a repertoire of different choices and different branches I can take until I feel that it is time to close the case. And at a certain point, anyone with the right privileges has the option to restart the whole thing if it seems like that's really, really necessary. In fact, notice this. This got escalated to Horace. And why? Because Horace is, remember how we talked about key clients? This is an A client. A clients have dedicated customer relationship management people or dedicated representatives. So we looped in the rep, the person that focuses on this particular customer, the moment they had a complaint. I'm sure Horace wants to get in touch with someone over there and assure them that I'm working on this, and I am. We really do, in good faith, want to do the right thing for this and any customer. But in order to deal with it in an intelligent way, we might need to get people involved. There's another thing going on, and this is going to be hard for me to illustrate, but easy for me to diagram. There is an action that's taking place here. There's a timeout. And this is slightly geeky, but don't worry. If we haven't responded to it yet, and we haven't escalated it yet, and we're in danger of exceeding our escalation threshold, and we define that using this formula. It's coming from a business rule in a catalog. But essentially, if the amount of time left in between when we started this case and now is more than 3/4 of the way towards our service level agreement expiring. We've agreed that we will respond to this customer within a particular period of time. If we're getting close to that threshold, I might need to escalate this to some people, and we will if we have to. Haven't really run into this yet because we've been able to meet our queue rather nicely, but that kind of stuff matters a lot. Everything related to this happens to be in one place, and that matters more than you might think. Case management is a set of methods, a set of roles, a set of assets, and it allows you to do everything from one place. We take a case management approach to things at WEBCON, which is why claims and complaints are so perfect for us. The next thing is communication. In other words, keeping people in the loop. I already mentioned alerting a representative if it's an A category client, or escalating something if a response time is taking too long. That matters too. But the other thing that matters is being able to explain the process to someone. If you've looked at the way a lot of software gets built, it might involve code. It might involve low code or no code tools as well. But I'll tell you what, normally, if you see a visual flowchart as what's going on, it's a lot busier and a lot denser than this, because there are a ton of little atomic actions like sending emails or checking values. And it looks like a program flowchart, and it's not for lay people to take a look at. Our diagrams are designed to be really easy to follow. What stage are you in? We're submitting it. Or we call these steps, but what step are you in? I'm in the submitting step, getting ready to send something in, then classification step, then I'm resourcing it, then it's in progress. Then later on, we're reviewing the resolution of it and deciding how good a job was done. We're checking to see if there were any anomalies. This stuff is really, really handy, and it's pretty easy for someone to follow. And if we forgot to do something, it's really easy for somebody who's a stakeholder in the system to tell us where we made a mistake or where we forgot something. So being able to communicate with people so that the stakeholders can take ownership of part of the solution, not necessarily having them take ownership of building the solution, but ownership of directing the solution. We want this. We're particularly good at it. Repeatability and consistency. If we create a sub-process for handling a specific situation, and we learn from that and have it available next time, like here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. This, I've got 5 different items here, and yesterday there were 4. Turned out that there was a pretty standardized way we wanted to request extensions. And so rather than just having that be an email that gets sent out, it turns out there are about 3 or 4 people that need to be involved if we're going to give somebody more time to pay for something. Actually, it's not so true of extensions, but it's absolutely true of discounts. So let's go with that. If we're going to issue a discount on an invoice that already went out, that involves the salespeople, that involves accounting, that involves a lot of people. And I don't want to have that be a semi-manual thing. So you know what we did? We wound up creating a sub workflow, a dedicated workflow whose job it is to deal with requesting discounts. And we'll run people through this particular workflow. It starts with a simple approval, but it gets a lot more complicated after that. And it ends with asking SAP to do the right thing. And it turns out, I believe that we have to rescind one invoice and then issue a new one. It's more complicated than one might think. And so for that reason, we've dedicated a workflow for just handling the discount. And I just call it like a magic black box. And that makes all the difference. It's repeatable, it's consistent. And the next time we have to do something like that for someone else, we don't need to think too much about what to do. We figured it out already. How about auditability? We need to make sure that we know what's going on at any given time. And you saw me do a little bit about this already when I went here to see what's been going on with the case as it's moved on. And this is a simpler one where fewer steps have taken place so far. We've just assigned it and now it's in progress. The one we looked at before had almost finished and it had many, many more steps, but I can watch as this thing unfolds. In fact, you know what I can do? I can take a look at what the form looked like as it moved from step to step to step. As we learned more things, the form got bigger and more things happened in it. And I have a front row seat to what happened. It's really, really handy. It's not just for one thing at a time. It allows me to examine some trends and react as well. You could say that our ability to look at where there were cases involving this problem with this particular boot model and soles that were coming unglued. I've had several cases of this so far. Yeah, I can audit things as I'm looking at one item at a time. I have the big picture and the details. And interoperability. Look, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because we've already talked about it. It's important to have some processes work with other processes and to talk to inflexible systems and extend them, basically to reach users the way they want to be reached. Our ability to communicate with other software and other processes helps with that a lot. Adaptability. I want to end with this, but it occurs to me that if I combine interoperability and auditability, I get to show you something that I'm really, really, really impressed with. We've had AI and WEBCON BPS for a while, but we've made it easier. Let me show you something. AI is designed to be useful, but kind of out of the way. And here's what I mean by this. I already am analyzing the heck out of this, but what I really want to know is anything weird going on that I need to know about? And so I see over here in Insights, a category called Anomalies. I've only got two things that are unusual, things that might require some special attention. Everything else is running smoothly, but this thing is odd and so is this other thing. And I want to know what it is that's weird at the moment with this particular case. So if I click on this, I can see it looks at some point that someone changed the service level agreement response time. That shouldn't happen. And now I need to figure out what's going on in my process that allowed it to take place in the first place. It doesn't look like this is a customer service problem. It looks like this is more of a software problem. So I will forward this to the application designer and have them deal with it. It could also be that while we were working on the case, that the salesperson negotiated a new SLA with them and it really did change because it was really supposed to change. I need to know a little bit more. The reason we do this is that one of the reasons that processes need to change is because business conditions changed. And if you're still trying to use old software for new business conditions, people start being very, very, very unhappy. So how do we do this? I'll show you. This will be a little bit more obvious. So I'm going to the overall process that we're working on, and I'm looking at the AI rules. Remember, this is AI. I didn't do a lot to set it up. You know what I did to set it up? I checked this checkbox, include an AI analysis. That's pretty much all I had to do. As long as you've got at least 1,000 instances to take a look at, then we start looking for patterns. And so I can see certain patterns, like, for example, the response time should not change in the middle of a case. And things like the change of the SLA response value should be within a particular range. And if something was resolved well, a couple of things should be done. And now, as it turns out, some of these things I care about a lot, and some of these things I don't care about at all. So I can tweak this as AI finds different patterns that should be followed. I can tell it that, okay, yeah, you found that this is true, but I don't care. But you found this, and I care about this in a medium fashion. You haven't found any rules that could be broken that I care about deeply, so I haven't marked anything high yet. But this was auto-discovered. I had to say what I cared about and what I didn't. And then based on this, it will flag things in terms of how far they deviate from the norm. How can I find that stuff out? Well, there's a business rule that I've got set up where it's a really simple function. Give me the AI analysis score for this instance. How different is it? If it's less than 80% the same as most, then I know I've got something weird and I've got to flag it. And when do I make use of this? Here, at the end of the process, when we think we're finished successfully, we want to do one last quick post-mortem on it, which is, if it turned out there was something odd, I want to forward this to the person whose job it is to maintain this solution and have them inspect it. It's okay, we've still made the customer happy, but this allows us to make sure that our software is meeting the needs of the business correctly. And when we say deviate from the norm, we mean patterns. It doesn't mean everything has to be exactly the same, but if there is a particular type of product that is taking too long to get processed, this is the kind of thing that gets flagged. Or if there's a user whose cases tend to take too long, this is the kind of thing we need to know about and can react to. All right. Last thing is adaptability. Everything you've been looking at, I can change in a matter of minutes. In fact, in the last hour before doing this, we made some pretty substantive changes to this application. It was easy because WEBCON has technology called instant change. It's one of our biggest selling points. I mean, there are lots of really good reasons to use WEBCON to build a solution for claims and complaints or anything else, but instant change means that we can adapt this on the fly to meet your needs. And why do we do this? Because you need it. Rules change, preferences change, business policies change, and you need to change your application to match it. The way we do it is what matters, because lots of different platforms are capable of affecting change. In our case, when you make a change, it doesn't destroy the work that's already taken place, and it doesn't disrupt it. In fact, anything that's in the middle of running just learns what the changes are and adapts on the fly. It's like changing a plane's itinerary mid-flight. We can do it. Very few people can. And in fact, in our case, it's really, really easy. So if you decide that business policies change or processes change, you can make the application catch up without having to restart a lot of work or accept that the stuff that's already started is going to be wrong by the time it finishes. What it means to you is that anything that turned out to be a problem can be fixed right away. No waiting. You can evolve your solution in real time. You can react to feedback from your users and your customers promptly and make adjustments. And it's okay if things aren't perfect, because it is perfectly all right to try something in good faith and change it based on when people take a look at it and decide whether they like it or not. In fact, it means experimentation in general is okay. What a lot of our customers wind up doing is taking a ready-to-use application, kind of like what you just saw, which actually does a pretty decent job, but we kind of expect you to take this and make it your own. So grab a ready-to-use application, We've got a whole catalog of them on our community site. Configure it and deploy it. You can usually get that done in less than 1 week. Now, it doesn't mean that the application's finished. You're going to want to change it. And basically, you begin a cycle of continuous improvement, starting with an application that will work, but you're going to want to make it your own. And we understand that, and we accept it. We make it easy for you. In fact, it's not just about claims and complaints. If you go to webcon.com and look at solutions, we've got different solutions by industry, by department, and a lot of other things, some stuff that facilitates remote work. So if you look at manufacturing, which is kind of what we focused on today, there are a whole set of specific popular processes that our clients in the manufacturing sector have automated, and we've got examples of all of them. Claims and complaints was the one we did today, but it certainly doesn't end there. It's a long list of things. So I'd like to close by saying there is indeed a better way to do claims and complaints. We call it the WEBCON way. Thank you very, very much for attending. We really do appreciate it. WEBCON's workflow but better, forms but better, low code but better, and solutions that are just plain better. If you go to www.webcon.com, that's a wonderful place to get started learning a lot more about us. And again, thank you very much for attending today.